power to the people. Look, free speech in America, that's always a good thing, right? But does that mean you can have free speech in another country? Afroman wins. We're going to maybe go over that maybe on Friday or so. But this is LPR. We're going to talk about Tucker Carlson, FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, coming up.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Here we are, LPR, coming to you Wednesday. We're going to do some legal stuff. We should probably cancel that song just in case we have some trouble with copyright strikes. Could always clip it out of the front, but it's a little bit harder to do it when it's in the middle. This is Tyler Yonke. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk some legal stuff. Now, OP, and we used to just be able to stream to X, and it's now not doing it anymore. And I'm wondering, at one point it's like, hey, you have to have a premium subscription. I'm like, well, okay, I don't have the highest premium, which I did at one point. Cut it back, there's levels, and I cut it back, and it was still streaming. I'm wondering now if that's a problem, so we'll try to figure it out. But we are streaming on Rumble, we're streaming on YouTube, and we also are streaming straight out to Substack. And I don't know if I'm going to do it tonight, but at one point here, I'm going to just only stream. I'm going to start the show. We're going to do it here. And then we're just going to do members only section to Substack. So go to tyleryonke.substack.com and we can do that there. Just because it's one method, and I know you've got to use your maybe your app. I think you could do it on the down low otherwise. But go check that out at least tonight. And there we go. Evening, boys. Eddie's in the chat. We had last night, for those of you who are Tower Gang aficionados, we got together a little bit. There was Cole. He was in studio with Raven and David. Oh, sorry, Top Lobster. And then Toad and I were remote, and we did a little bit of thing. It was fun. It was just spur of the moment, totally last minute, and it was good times had by all. So at least I enjoyed it. Okay, so let's get into, maybe we need to play this first, which is Tucker, some more stuff here. Afroman, his trial, I want to go over some of that. It's already done and over. Spoiler, he won on all counts, and there's some pretty classic videos already going around about stuff. So the trial itself was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. This is what Afroman had to say after the fact. Let's just go here. And if you don't know much about it, it was a defamation lawsuit. These cops broke into his place. He wasn't there, and then he did a song about it, and they didn't like that. These pussy cops. Okay, anyway.
Here's Afroman speaking directly after that verdict.
I didn't win. America won. America still has freedom of speech. It's still for the people, by the people.
Afroman becoming emotional there as he says this fight was bigger than him. It was about free speech and what he describes as corruption in...
Bigger than him. I wonder if he's talking about the lady next to him, because she may be bigger than him.
Free speech and what he describes as corruption in this sheriff's department. I spoke to one supporter who came all the way from Dallas. I have more on that and more reaction from the rapper tonight at 11. In Adams County, Jay Shakur, WCPO 9 News.
All right. There you go. He wins. Okay, good for him. Okay, well, let's get through. There's some stuff about, I don't know if we've talked about the Foreign Agents Registration, I think FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act, I think is what it is, foreign agents, anyway. And because we talked about it when Trump took office, we said, who's Pam Bondi? And so we talked about FARA because there was also she's part of the DOJ, and she had been an attorney down in, was it Georgia, I believe? And then she is the DOJ, but she at one point had been a registered foreign agent for Qatar. Okay, Qatar. Now, she's definitely on the payroll now. She was on Qatar then. She's definitely on the payroll now for Israel, I would imagine, which is, a little bit of a dichotomy there. But she had registered for that. People make a big deal about, and then people make a big deal about, Carlson and all this other stuff. Is like, yeah, but what about all this other? Well, there's certain ones that don't have to register. Now, she comes in, and first thing she does, we're going to talk about it here because it actually has a lot to do with this Tucker Carlson issue. And you're saying, well, what is this Tucker Carlson issue? Well, we've talked about what Tucker's been doing, which is he's gone over to, he's done interviews and annihilated people like Ted Cruz. And then it was Mike Huckabee as well. And what was their sin? Well, their sin was they couldn't defend America very well. And yet, got this foreign nation, Israel, which they're really big into. And so you had to take Tucker down, right? And they've been going after him for months and years now, actually, ever since, way back when he had Daryl Cooper on, and they called him a Nazi and all this stuff. Anyway, so Tucker has these problems, and there's a lot of angst about him. And then he comes out and he puts out this video just the other night. And let's play it. It's 5 minutes 21 seconds. Where he lays out the case that there's a case perhaps against him.
So the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report, to the Department of Justice, on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable. And moreover, it's my job to talk to everybody all the time and try and figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living, and I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I don't think. I'm also an American. I can talk to anybody. I have no secrets to divulge. So legally, I think the case is ludicrous, and I doubt it will even become a case. I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons, though. And they're pretty obvious. One is that countries tend to become more authoritarian in wartime. It's just the nature of war. People are dying. The stakes are high. People's emotions have risen to a very high point, to a crescendo. And so there's much less tolerance for any kind of dissent in the homeland. The irony, of course, is the United States fights wars on behalf of freedom, but there's always less of it here in our country during war. So that's a widely recognized phenomenon, and it's likely to happen now, too. Another point to make that is worth knowing is that the USIC, the intelligence agency, spy on Americans. Now, you probably knew that, and it's been revealed a lot, including by Julian Assange and Ed Snowden, both of whom are threatened with death for revealing it, but everyone knows. But it's probably a little more widespread than most people understand, and it's outrageous. There's no justification for your government, which you own, you're a shareholder in it, you pay for it, to be violating your privacy like this. But it happens all the time. And in fact, one of the reasons that CIA, or people within CIA, just to be clear, it's a huge, sprawling, disconnected agency. What it does in a specific case doesn't represent what everybody in the building thinks, but there are some people who are mad at me for my views about Israel. And they have some latitude. And one of the reasons they pass on criminal complaints, in effect, to law enforcement is to justify warrants for spying on Americans. So that is an absolutely real thing. But the main reason they do it is to leak the existence of the investigation, such as it is, to the media, and then humiliate and terrify the subjects of this op. And that's, of course, happened to me repeatedly, many times, including in, famously, 2021, when I was still at Fox News and trying to set up an interview with Vladimir Putin. And the NSA, I heard from someone there, had grabbed my text messages with an American citizen and had leaked them to news outlets. Those texts were basically my attempts to set up an interview with the foreign head of state, and they leaked them to the New York Times in order to stop the interview, which they successfully did, by the way, and they admitted that they were spying on me. This is not a fantasy. It actually happened. They did it again 2 years later. My second attempt to get a Putin interview, I managed to get it anyway, and they've done it since. And so when you get a call from a reporter who knows the contents of your texts, it's pretty clear something's going on. None of this, in my judgment, as of right now, is a huge threat to me, so I'm not making this video to complain about it or whine or ask you to send me money because I'm under attack. I'm saying it because it's true, and you should know what your own government is doing, and you should know what the stakes are. And you should know that a lot of what happens in this country that affects outcomes happens behind the scenes. Some of it is legal, some of it is not, including what I'm describing now. But it has an effect. And the intel agencies, again, not everyone in the intel agencies, because there are decent, hardworking Americans who work in the intel agencies are Americans, just like there are decent, hardworking Americans who work at the DMV. But there are also people with agendas and grudges and no sense of restraint who are happy to misuse the power they have, granted them by our elaborate secrecy laws, to hurt fellow Americans for ideological reasons. That is entirely real. That's the story of Russiagate. And it's likely that things like that will begin to happen at greater scale now. So you should just know that going forward. Thanks.
All right. So Tucker, hang on, let me get back to what I wanted actually. Tucker, puts out that video, and I get it. And then a lot of the reactions, there's a few things there. One, he just interviewed Joe Kent. Joe Kent was like right under Tulsi Gabbard about, intelligence, counterintelligence and whatnot. And it will be interesting because he was the one that was trying to get the evidence, wanted to investigate Charlie Kirk, okay? The assassination. And evidently that was put on hiatus by the upper, I think Bongino and them went after him. There was a brouhaha about it at one point. And then he decides to resign over the Israel-Iran war, and then they're like, oh, well, he wasn't even in the intelligence stuff. He had been leaking for a while. He was like, well, first of all, what does that say? Trump also had said at one point, oh, we know where there's Iranian threats in the U.S. We know where they are. We're monitored. And it's like, well, why would you let these persist? Same with him, big leaker. Now, just saw today, Mark Levin was supposed to have, I think he's supposed to have Kenton, and I went to his YouTube page, and he has a whole 40-minute segment about the leaks in the government. And it's all about, likely Joe Kent. I didn't watch it. I imagine it's about Joe Kent, not with Joe Kent, but about him with, mock this leak stuff. But they're fine with these kind of leaks. So it's very disingenuous, and you need to always understand that and try to have some, the same idea, which is, there is a risk, right? You want to be careful on your own side, which is, I make accusations. I was just thinking of it here, watching this. I make accusations about, Tucker, not Tucker, but Ted Cruz, Huckabee, a lot in the Trump administration being very Zionist and, I did a whole thing called Make the Espionage Act Great Again, right? Go after these people for being, for espionage, because it feels like they're doing that. Now, they will come after Tucker and they'll like say, oh, he's pro Hamas or he's pro-Iran. And it's like, well, there's a difference in saying you're not a fan of the way Israel is, infiltrating our government and we're doing stuff, they're just bending over. Because when you talk to Ted Cruz, he's not neutral on all these things. He is very, and it was very obvious when you watch the Huckabee interview, the defensiveness, even to the point where Huckabee at multiple times shit on America, a Marine, either our military isn't as good, or less moral type of stuff. I mean, some kind of egregious shit. He's fine with doing that, but you can't ever say anything about this other little country. Okay. So at that point you're like, okay, well, it's a little bit different. And I can definitely say, like I've said over and over, not a fan of Palestinians or especially Hamas, not at all. I'm just not also a fan of, what the conflict over there is with Israel. So it's a little bit different than those two. Okay, so that's what he said. That was his take on it. Now I want to see Michael Knowles had a clip here, and anything Michael Knowles plays of Tucker, we're just going to skip through it. But this is him at 1.25 talking about it as well.
Of Iran. Tucker has just made a startling claim. Tucker came out, I think he posted this yesterday, maybe the day before. He says that the CIA has been surveilling him to build a case against him, to prosecute him as some kind of Iranian spy.
So the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against.
Okay, I'm going to see if I could scrub past this part because we just played it. Okay, here we go. Here, let's see what Michael Daily Wire Knowles says.
Okay, it goes on. I think Tucker gives about a 2-minute explanation here, but this is pretty startling. For starters,
5-minute explanation.
He is admitting that he was texting the Iranians. Now, before everyone says that he's next in line to be the Ayatollah or something, Tucker makes a good point. He says, look, I'm a journalist. I've been interviewing all sorts of people for many, many years. It used to be the case that American journalists would go and interview Osama bin Laden or go and interview Vladimir Putin, which Tucker did. But Tucker's not the only guy who's interviewed Vladimir Putin, or go and interview all sorts of hostile leaders. So there's nothing in itself wrong about a journalist texting the Iranians. I guess it depends on the substance of those text messages. But that part is already established. The question then is the CIA investigating Tucker for committing some kind of crime? And I guess when it gets to the substance of the text messages, was Tucker colluding with the Iranians or something? And it doesn't really make sense to me. And here's why it doesn't make sense. You're going to have all sorts of people. There are going to be people who hate.
Of course it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's not even questionable as to whether it makes sense. But he, working for the Daily Wire, has to but look, this is as we would call in the law, this is a wobbler. It can go either way. But I'm just going to put out there maybe a defensive. And it's like, come on. Do you think what would he be giving you? I mean, he's friends with Trump. He's never really gone against Trump at all. Kind of lately, a few little things, but not hardly. He campaigned for him. It doesn't make sense that Tucker's out there advocate. What is he going to give secrets to the Iranians?
Tucker saying he's a foreign agent. He's bought and paid for. And you're going to have people defending Tucker saying he would never do any such thing. He's as patriotic as apple pie. And I don't know. Take your personal feelings and affection out of this for a second and just look at the accusations, starting with the accusations from the people who hate Tucker. They say he's bought and paid for by whom? By the Qataris and the Arabs. That's been the claim. That's been the chief line of attack against Tucker for how many months now? He's bought and paid for by the Qataris and by the Arabs. He was just speaking in Saudi Arabia, a month and a half ago? Why would a guy who's bought and paid for by not only the Qataris, but even especially the Arabs, why would he be working for the Iranians? It doesn't take a foreign policy genius. It doesn't take Count von Metternich to realize that the Arabs and the Iranians don't like each other.
It's nuanced. It's not even that much nuance. It's just, if you know, you know, but it doesn't matter because who are I'm thinking of two real strong people that dislike Tucker the most, probably. Mark Levin, Laura Loomer. Mark Levin said they had nuclear-tipped missiles aimed at the United States, okay?
Qatar has this very interesting position in the international order because Qatar has decent relations with just about everybody. Qatar has decent relations with the state of Israel and Hamas. And Iran, they've got a kind of pragmatic relationship, but Qatar is a Gulf state. And Qatar has a good relationship with the United States. We have a good military relationship with Qatar. And so, okay, you say Qatar is this very strategic location. Works as a kind of buffer, almost neutral state. But then what about the Arabs? How can you explain to me how Tucker would be cozying up to the Saudis, but also working for the Iranians, and also he's a Russian spy, and also this, that, and the other thing? It doesn't make sense to me. And so I have no doubt that Tucker has heard this from someone. Maybe he got it from high up. Who knows? Tucker knows a ton of people. He's got a ton of access. Maybe that's the case. But then, I don't know, the whole thing seems crazy to me. Could you imagine the DOJ prosecuting Tucker? Maybe. I mean, look, the United States government has prosecuted journalists before, and there's all sorts of espionage, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible. The story just doesn't make sense to me. To me, I just wonder how many layers of misinformation and disinformation are going on here. We are in the midst of a war.
Okay, so is he claiming, and we're going to get to the law itself, okay, but is he claiming that the disinformation and misinformation is on Tucker's side? Probably.
A real hot war with missiles flying, with Marines being shipped in potentially for ground forces in Iran after a major attack on the Iranian nuclear facilities. And in the fog of war, there is a ton of propaganda. At this point, I think X, Twitter, is like 70% foreign and domestic propaganda. I don't know how many organic comments are really there anymore. And so I just suppose with anything, I said this the minute the war kicked off. I said, needless to say, anything you hear about this war in the next 48 hours should be taken with a grain of salt. Well, you can even extend that. Over the weekend, I found out that Bibi Netanyahu was dead, and then I found out he was alive again. I found out Mojtaba, the son of Ali Khamenei, the new Ayatollah, I heard that he was dead, then he's not dead, but he's missing a leg, and Tucker's an Iranian spy, but he's also a Qatari spy, and he's probably a Saudi spy, and I take all of it with a grain of salt. This goes right back to my general strategy with the Trump administration's view on the Iran war. I have my views, as most of us did, I think, about invading Iran. I had my own views. I had my own preconceptions. I had my own priors. Now we've invaded. The war's on. We want to win it. We need to win it. I'm giving it 5 weeks. I start freaking out on week 6. Very strange, though. I mean, some of the claims being made just don't make any sense. No surprise. Propaganda.
Right. Okay. Let's move on from there. Okay. I didn't get my chat shit isn't quite coming up here. OBS is there we go. I rarely jump on here. A second story. I appreciate your stuff too. I rarely jump on here anymore to watch any content, but it's awesome to see you're still podcasting, Tyler. Always enjoy your stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so that's kind of the null. That's a kind of a mealy mouth. What is this? I don't know. It's a little bit disappointing because it's obvious this is, I mean, we're talking about lawfare, right? That was a big deal. Lawfare. Look, they're going after Trump. Okay, well, now you've got this issue here. And who is responsible for it? Well, according to Laura Loomer herself or himself,
we're going to be watching closely. It's not ending anytime soon, but Operation Epic Fury will go on. Operation Epic Fury will continue, and the president and his administration are getting sick and tired of the woke Reich and their FARA violations.
Woke Reich. I mean, it's funny. I'm watching this thing with Michael Knowles. So maybe we could put it back up here. And this first comment under here, this chick says, "What kind of spell does Tucker have over men on the right? It's bizarre." And it's like, her name's anti-woke. It's like, I swear to God, this is so Orwellian. What is the definition of woke? We've talked about this over and over and over, right? It's putting identity politics ahead, and it's really putting identity politics, as Ben Shapiro used to call it, the oppression Olympics. Okay, you're not talking about like trying to put yourself. So what is this? What is it? What is it? It's about victimizing, and the more problems you have, the more steps you get to be put up there. That's kind of the Olympics, right? And we're talking about gold, and I know we're talking about Jews, so it's everyone's like, hey, wait, don't talk about the Olympics, gold medals and other rare earth metals. I'm saying it anyway. I'm using that thing. The more problems you have, the more victim things you can come up with, more safe spaces you need. That is the whole woke idea, right? Using your identity politics as some sort of cudgel, okay? That's what she is doing. Just because people are noticing this and they're like, hey, I don't want to fall under your spell. I'm not falling for this shit anymore. Oh, you're woke. It's like, it's so Orwellian. It's crazy. And you know what? It's the James Lindsays. It's all those motherfuckers out there. What's the Constantinople?
They're Logan Act violations, and I have a feeling that we're going to see the hammer drop pretty hard on Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and others very soon, because these people are saboteurs, they are operatives, they are trying to sabotage President Trump and the MAGA movement. And for our own national security, we can't allow for these people to continue. I mean, look, they have a First Amendment right to say it, but eventually they need to be held accountable, whether legally accountable or they need to be forced to register with FARA. Again, Pam Bondi's ultimately going to have to revise her memo. Somebody's going to have to tell the president that and I'm not, look, I understand that this was done to try to prevent another Russia collusion hoax situation from happening where Republicans were falsely accused of FARA violations. Right. But at the end of the day, we have FARA in place so that people are forced to register when they are lobbying for foreign governments, and so that we can keep an eye on foreign influence operations and hold people accountable if they are taking money from foreign regimes to influence American policies and American political decisions, especially in a time of war. I mean, how much of a traitor can you be, Tucker? How much of a traitor can you be, Candace, Milo, and Megan and Nick? All these people in the woke right saying that people that are praising the Ayatollah, saying prayers for the Ayatollah, talking about how great Islam is. Give me a break. Give me a break. This behavior is downright treasonous. Okay. We shouldn't be tolerating it.
If you've ever seen any of her stuff where you see, especially Milo carrying the receipts, she's a blatant liar about everything. So, but she didn't say it there. Evidently, she comes out with tweets, and I got to get it off my screen here. with tweets and whatnot, essentially saying that she's the one that's been reporting Tucker and these other people. You heard that? Oh, they have a First Amendment right, but at some point they need to be held accountable. It's like, okay, what? Fine, let's tampen down the FARA restrictions, because she did reference it. It's just there a little bit, and we will get to it. However, what is FARA all about? I think we should probably at least look at the law. It's 22 U.S. Code Section 611 as used in and for the purpose of this subchapter. The term person includes, it's going to be some definitions here. Individual, partnership, association, corporation, organization, or any other combination of individuals. The term foreign principal includes a government of a foreign country and a foreign political party, okay? So far, we're not defining anybody outside that specifically, like, there are restricted countries, okay? So when I worked in the financial institutions, there were countries on, like do not, certain lists where we weren't doing business. So brokerage firm, you're not actually accepting applications from certain countries. Okay, there's problem. You just don't do that. Okay, we're not making trade. We're not trading. I think it's probably against the law to even trade with Cuba right now. There's different countries. I get it. I don't know if Iran is on one of those lists or not. Does that mean you can't make phone calls, right? A person outside the United States, unless it established that such a person, an individual or citizen of or domiciled within the United States, or that such person is not an individual and is organized under or created by laws in the United States or any other state or other place subject to jurisdiction in the United States, and has its principal place of business within the United States. So, okay, there you go. A person outside, inside, a partnership. These are just, where's the actual fucking law? A partnership, association, corporation, organization, or other combination of persons organized under the laws or is having its principal place of business in a foreign country. Okay? Those are what terms foreign principles include. Expect, as provided in subsection D of this section, the term agent of a foreign principal means any person who acts as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreign principal or of a person who any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized in whole or in part by a foreign principal, and who directly or through any person. And then we're going to talk about this. Now, let's just talk about these things here. I mean, you've got to be basically, like Pam Bondi was hired by Qatar to help this is a situation over there where there's some accusations of fraud and whatnot. So she was helping this company through the Qatar. So she had to register because she was getting paid by this foreign company, and you have to do that. I mean, is Laura Loomer's idea that, and we're going to talk about what Pam Bondi's done now, because she referenced it, she being Laura, or he, referenced it in the comment about restriction as far as the DOJ. She made changes when she came into office. Okay, so what can they not do? Engages with the United States in political activities for, and think of this the whole time in context with Tucker Carlson and text. He's probably wanting to talk to someone over there and do an interview. Okay, so think about that. What do you think those texts and the DOJ is reading them? Okay, that's a problem. But you know what? I'm just going to say here the way that the law is written, and this is how they were doing stuff with Trump and kind of getting around that, which is if you are messaging or calling someone a foreign person, they're tapping that person's phone. Okay. And listening to their calls, and they're reading their messages. Oh, you're talking to an American. Now we can do you, because you fell into that trap, so to speak. Engages with the United States in political activities for or in interest of such foreign principal. Okay, let's assume it's just I want to talk to you. Okay, like Putin. Okay, that doesn't work. Acts within the United States as a public relations counsel, public city agent, information service employee, or political consultant for the interest of such foreign principal. So, PR firm. Like Laura Loomer and a lot of these. I mean, some of this stuff here, think of Lindsey Graham going over and begging, hoping, trying to teach Benjamin Netanyahu how to convince Trump to get into this Iranian war. Okay. Now, was he paid? Probably in a roundabout way. How are you get? Oh, I'm going to get a free trip over there. Oh, I wonder who paid for that trip. Was it the American taxpayers, or was it Israel? And I would say that, you know, for a lot of them, they do little press junkets and they go over there. Within the United States, solicits, collects, disperses, or dispenses contribution, loans, money, and other value for interest of such foreign principals, or within the United States represents the interests of such foreign principal before any agency or official of the government of the United States, and any person who agrees, consents, assumes, or purports to act as, or who is or holds himself to be, whether or not pursuant to contractual relations, an agent of a foreign principal, as defined in Clause 1 of this subsection. Okay, so we'll keep going on here, but I mean, look, you're literally the idea. And then there's going to be some nuance around that. And if you're trying to get around some of that nuance, you're probably going to have some trouble. The term an agent of a foreign principal does not include any news or press service association organized under the laws of the United States, or any such state or any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, or any newspaper, magazine, periodical, or other publication for which there is a file with the United States Postal Service information or compliance with Section 3611 of Title 39 published in the United States solely by virtue of any bona fide news or journalistic activities, including the solicitation or acceptance of advertisements, subscriptions, or other compensation, therefore, so long as it at least 80% beneficially owned by, or its officers and directors, if any, are the United States citizens. And such news or press service or association named newspaper, mag, periodical, or other publication is not owned, directed, supervised, controlled, subsidized, or financed, and none of these policies are determined by any foreign principal defined in subsection of this B of this section, by any agent of a foreign principal registered under this subchapter. So in other words, doesn't matter, you know, if you're a newspaper journalist doing activities, it doesn't, especially if the owner is not a foreign agent as well. The term government of a foreign country includes any person or group of persons exercising sovereign, de facto, or de jure political jurisdiction over any country other than the United States, or over any part of such country, and includes any subdivision of any such group and any group or agency in which such sovereign, de facto, or de jure. In other words, de facto is just, I used to know how these terms were specifically defined, but de jure is, let's look those up. Why don't we have do they have them in here? No, it doesn't have it. It's de jure by law, according to law. So that would be like outright. And so de facto would be like, you know, in a sense, de facto. Let's go this. Let's do this. De facto versus de jure. De facto refers to what exists in practice or reality, regardless of legal recognition, while de jure refers to what is officially recognized or established by law. There you go. That makes sense. That would be, I guess, a Venezuelan president. He was de facto president, and then somebody would say de jure. You know, he's not legally. You know, because that's what Trump was saying. He's not legally actually. That Trump, maybe there it is too, or Biden, right? Was that thing? The term public relations counsel includes any person who engages directly or indirectly or informing, advertising, Let's get to the actual. This is a lot of definitions here. The term registration statement, the term American public, the term United States, the term prince, term political activist. Where is the actual code? Well, let's go on here because I do get it off of some of these. So what is FARA? What is FARA? The law at the center of Tucker Carlson's claim. Tucker Carlson said in a video posted on X that U.S. intelligence officials may accuse him of violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act, commonly known as FARA. The claim raised new questions about the decades-old federal law that governs how Americans disclose work performed on behalf of foreign governments or political interests. Sorry, fight for the truth, people. Carlson denied acting on behalf of any foreign power and said the allegation stems from his communications with individuals in Iran before the outbreak of the current Middle East war. The Foreign Agents Registration Act is a federal transparency law that requires individuals or organizations working on behalf of a foreign government's political interest to disclose their relationships to the U.S. Department of Justice. What, FARA? Congress enacted the Foreign Agents Registration Act in 1938 amid concerns about foreign propaganda campaigns in the United States leading up to World War II. The law does not prohibit Americans from communicating with foreign officials or organizations. There you go. Doesn't prohibit them. Instead, it requires individuals who represent foreign governments or political entities in the United States to publicly disclose those relationships and activities. The statute is codified in 22 U.S.C. Section 611 and administered and enforced by the Department of Justice. What counts as a foreign principal? FARA defines a foreign principal broadly. The categories include foreign governments, foreign political parties, companies or organizations outside the United States, individuals who are not U.S. citizens reside outside the United States, who must register. Individuals, organizations may have to register if they act under the direction or control of a foreign principal and perform certain activities within the United States. Those activities can include lobbying U.S. government officials, conducting public relations, distributing information on behalf of a foreign government or political entity, representing foreign interests before U.S. government agencies. I mean, you know, it makes sense. It's not just being a journalist. Registration generally requires filing disclosure forms with the Department of Justice within 10 days of agreement. What registration requires? Individual or organizations who register under FARA must disclose information about their work for foreign principals, including contracts and agreements with foreign principal, payments and compensation received, activities performed on behalf of a foreign principal. Registered agents must also file semi-annual reports detailing their activities and finances. Are there exceptions? What do you think? Commercial activities unrelated to politics, academic, religious, and scientific work, legal representation connected to court proceedings, diplomats and foreign officials recognized by the U.S. government. Some lobbyists representing foreign businesses may register under the Lobbying Disclosure Act rather than the FARA. How FARA is enforced. The U.S. Department of Justice enforces the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Violations can result in fines, criminal penalties. Although prosecutions historically have been relatively rare in recent years, however, federal authorities have increased enforcement efforts tied to foreign influence investigation. As previously reported by the Dallas Express, organizations and contractors frequently file FARA disclosures when working on behalf of foreign governments or political entities in the United States. Okay, there you go with that. Now, DOJ disbands Foreign Influence Task Force, limits scope of FARA prosecutions. This was back in February when Pam Bondi came into office. Both the task force and FARA were used by the Bureau to investigate, charge, and disrupt foreign and domestic actors accused of working to influence American policy on behalf of other nations. I mean, that, and it said, you know, congressmen or elected officials are exempt. I mean, this is exactly what Lindsey Graham was doing. One of the first acts taken by Pam Bondi after being sworn in as Attorney General was to disband the FBI task force that countered the influence of adversarial foreign governments on American politics. In a memo issued Wednesday, Bondi wrote that the Department of Justice would be shifting resources in its National Security Division, including disbanding the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force to free resources to address more pressing priorities and end risks of further weaponization and abuses of prosecutorial discretion. Bondi's memo also states that the Department of Justice will now only refer criminal charges under the Foreign Agents Registration Act if they alleged conduct similar to more traditional espionage by foreign government actors, which that's what that's really what Lindsey Graham, Mike Huckabee, giving Ted Cruz. That's the kind of stuff they're doing. But I doubt, we'll have to see what the texts are. We don't know what the texts are. But it's interesting that Laura Loomer is the one reporting this stuff referring it over. I mean, how does she know what he was saying? I mean, she's just so full of crap. The section of the memo outlining the changes offers no further details or rationale for the decisions. Well, I think it's because they really wanted to ramp up their Israel influence. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was established by then Director Christopher Wray in 2017, followed the 2016 U.S. presidential election cycle, during which Russian intelligence hacked into the DNC email system, probed election-related infrastructure for vulnerabilities, funded domestic protests, and conducted influence operations on social media. Wray, who was nominated to lead the FBI by Donald Trump, described the task force work. Remember Wray, okay? That was a Donald Trump person, as an effort to leverage the Bureau's collective expertise and resources in counterintelligence, cybersecurity, and counterterrorism to investigate, call out, and disrupt foreign-led efforts to interfere in American elections. 2018, Wray said the task force work revolved around 3 pillars, working across all 56 FBI offices to investigate emerging foreign influence campaigns, quickly sharing information with other intelligence agencies, federal agencies, state and local governments, and election officials, and working with private technology companies, Palantir, to close off cyber vulnerabilities and share information around influence campaigns on social media. It's going to take us it's going to take all of us working together to hold the field, because this threat is not going away, said Wray, who stepped down this past year amid reports that Trump planned to fire him after taking office. FARA requires that everyone in the U.S. accepting payment from or representing a foreign government must register and disclose such information to the foreign government. It has been a key tool for law enforcement agencies in foreign influence investigations, notably during Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation of potential collusion between Trump's campaign and the Russian government. For instance, Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager in 2016, pleaded guilty in 2018 to violating FARA by declining to disclose that he was being paid by the government of Ukraine and former President Viktor Yanukovych. Manafort was also accused by Mueller in a separate report released by the Senate Intelligence Committee of handing over Trump campaign polling data to Konstantin Kisin, who later identified by the Treasury Department as a Russian intelligence asset. I think that's a little bit wrong, because I think he is the one that told them to. Manafort was later pardoned by Trump and left office. Okay, so that's kind of where the DOJ part is there. Updated on the proposed amendments. What are the first? The Attorney General has disbanded the task force. We talked about that. Second, the corporate enforcement unit within the National Security Division, the DOJ division that administers FARA, has also been disbanded, and its personnel are being reassigned. Third, and most importantly here, the criminal charges will now be brought under FARA only for alleged contact similar to more traditional espionage by foreign government actors. Yeah, that's what they're claiming. We'll see if we have a resurgent of that at all. Now, this was Gen X Girl posted this thing here on her day clear, and this talks about, we're going to play a little clip here of Ian Carroll talking about this exact stuff that we just went over, 1.25. I think we'll be just fine in checking this out. Okay, let's play away.
February 2025. In a move of profound significance, yet little known, this is huge shout out to Gen X Girl. Don't know how she dug this one up. This one is super obscure and super significant. So February of this year, Pam Bondi on her first day.
Well, I wouldn't say it's obscure. I reported about it as it happened. It came out and I was digging it. I reported on it probably right when it happened. I think I was like on that day I had that stuff. So I don't know about super obscure. It's just, if you know, you know.
Disbands the Foreign Influence Task Force.
I think it's because I was on the White House website where they were posting all the new stuff, all the wins that we were getting. And then this was one of them. It's like, I'm fine with, delegitimizing some of the government overreach and whatnot. But now you're just like, okay, maybe they're hurting themselves. They're reducing this stuff. Let's see what he says.
The very DOJ office responsible for enforcing FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The change specifically limits DOJ prosecutors from criminally charging those involved in public relations work and policy advocacy on behalf of foreign businesses and nonprofits. This deliberate incapacitation of the enforcement mechanism gave a green light to foreign influence operatives, ensuring that the Knesset's 2018 plan to skirt FARA could proceed with minimal risk of prosecution, without tripping up the FARA system and getting into trouble, because just maybe there might be something coming up on our little plans.
I will say this, and I'm glad he's going down this route. I haven't watched this part yet. That, you know, we read some of those initial articles, and at the time, everyone's like, "Oh, this is all about Russia, you know, that kind of thing." Is it though, or was it setting the stage for what we've got to take a pause here because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Luke Necessary said $50. Tyler is the sanest, clearest voice in the PodTube world. My wife says he has a good voice. I'm going to argue with your wife. So I banned her from seeing his good looks. Podcast only for her. Only show I ever watch live. Never stop. Yankee. Just don't take our women while doing it. Wow, that's strong words. I'm confused as to someone with your insanity would have $50 on you. I do not have a good voice. I will admit that right away. It's not bad. It's my voice, but it's not. It's great. I appreciate it. I'm never going to take anybody else's woman because I've got the best one of my own. But I really appreciate that. A lot of big cheer out. Do we have a cheer? There we go, to Luke Necessary. Now, I appreciate that, and anybody else wants to follow in step, please do. JC says, thanks for being part of the Tower Gang reunion yesterday. Yeah, and everyone that showed up, really appreciate that. A lot of fun. I just enjoy, I miss those guys, and I wish they would figure out with this Bro Grove and then give me like 6 months, and because I need to clear my schedule just right, and I would show up for another one. Okay, let's keep going here.
Kind of need to do some foreign influence campaigns about. And it's in this memorandum from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And there's a whole bunch of other points too, and this is just one of them, and this is just a little thing hiding in one of these points from this memo that I guess Gen X girl noticed or something. Shifting resources in the National Security Division to free resources to address more pressing priorities, and end risks of further weaponization and abuses of prosecutorial discretion, the Foreign Influence Task Force shall be disbanded. Recourse to criminal charges under the Foreign Agents Registration Act and 18 Code 951 shall be limited to instances of alleged conduct similar to more traditional espionage by foreign government actors. Like Jeffrey Epstein, maybe? Like Jeffrey Epstein? Like in theoretically, just like as an example, Pam? With respect to FARA and 951, the Counterintelligence and Export Control Section, including the FARA unit, shall focus on civil enforcement, regulatory initiatives, and public guidance. So, no more FARA enforcement, unless it's like a legit spy. You're all good. You're free to go. There's no cop on the beat anymore. Havas Media Group. There's a lot about this whole this next piece that I still don't understand. It's extremely complex. It's this web of companies and subsidiaries and influence operations of shell companies and LLCs that are funneling money from the high ups down, mostly from Israel, actually, documented, down in through these other organizations to social media influencers, to propaganda campaigns, to digital campaigns, and all the rest, okay? And the reason is because it enables plausible deniability for Israeli government, right? In the sense of when they were worried about the FARA stuff, now Pam Bondi has changed it. So there's no one on the beat. No cop is looking after the FARA stuff unless you're like acting as an actual intelligence asset. And so they figure, we'll just make sure there's one intermediary in between. Rather than having the government of Israel directly pay for all this shit, let's have the government of Israel pay a bunch of NGOs, nonprofits, foundations, LLCs, etc., all around the world. And then they will target Americans and America with all the propaganda that we need, right? So just remember, this is happening now in this environment where they have multiplied the budget for Hasbara by 20. They've set up a whole bunch of new foundations. They were checking out to see what are the FARA regulations and how do we skirt them. If we start paying a bunch of influencers, are they all going to have to register? What's the deal? Then Pam Bondi comes in and is like, don't worry, I'll just kill that whole task force. It's all gone. Open season. And as soon as that happens, we start to get all these new organizations popping up and all this new money is flooding in and all these new influencers are getting paid and going on trips and getting talking points, right? February.
So, so perhaps, you always have to wonder what you're doing with when you change the law, right? And when the law changes, or if you're going to just go in and what is it? I'm trying to remember the guy. He's like a philosopher or whatever. Where you go defense. Okay, you don't just rip out the fence post because you don't know if there's a fence there. There's more than just a fence post. There's a fence with the fence post. You don't just rip it out because it's in your way unless you know why it's there. So perhaps this is with, the law, the unintended, which is, okay, now if they've changed this and their whole structure, going after Tucker, one, would be insanity. Okay, he's got, that video he had where we played at the beginning, where it's 26 minutes. 5 minutes. It's got 26.4 million views. You don't go after Tucker with this. I just don't think that's going to be beneficial. So it's a little bit unhinged, especially with the Levins and whatnot. They're all calling for it. Get him up. You just saw the Laura Loomer. She's in lock. That woman is so. This is where I lose a lot of hope with Trump. Okay, when you think of a leader, let's go back to what's his name. So you got he does the podcast with. Does a podcast with Daryl Cooper. He's the big guy. Jocko Willink. He talks about management and being a leader. He does a whole, if you've listened to his podcast talking about My Lai, the massacre, it's fantastic. And his breakdown of that is that it's a breakdown of leadership. Okay, a lot of this happened because the leaders that were put in this place were not leaders, and then they advocated their duties, and next thing you know, you've just got chaos run amok. But leaders pick good people to be with them. Okay, that's part of what I think is good leadership, is being able to pick people, your partners, your whatnot, your people that work for you that can really work and do well. I think that's where Trump is just, he gets enamored by people on TV, and next thing you know, Laura Loomer, what does she have on him? There was someone at one point was making the claim that she had been sucking him off, and it makes you wonder if she had and she took a picture and now she's got blackmail material, because why would you let someone so crazy be so close to you and make influence? Trump comes after Joe Kent, says stupid crap about him, but then in the same breath, in a sense, goes up and posts this love letter to Mark Levin, which maybe we'll go here and see if I can find it. Defending him, and you're just like, what is going on? It's a little bit crazy, but there you have it. That's Joe Kent's letter. Do I have Trump's thing? We'll see here. I guess I don't have it. However, let's look at this, because this is Luke says, also a cut down in my hours of X scrolling by letting Tyler just summarize all of it for me. And now I get everything I need during my commute. That's hilarious. Justin said the Rothschild French-born branch born in El Salvador is head in Israel and named her kid after Hitler, and they are also and they are so-called Jews. I don't know what's going on there. That's a lot of words that's some craziness. Don't call your son Hitler. That might be the best thing to do. Might be as all. Okay, we're going to do a show. I want to say tomorrow or Friday. Either one. We're gonna do some stuff on Afroman. I know he is cleared. We're also gonna dig into some of this stuff. I can't help it. I have to give you updates on anti-Semitism and the push against your freedoms there. So I'll try to do a little bit more polished show for that. But I think the reality that we really have is here, and I think you can see it with Tucker, which is he's not concerned. He knows what FARA is all about. It's bullshit. At some point, he does bother me because he needs to be a little more clear. He says, I've never taken money from anybody. And I'm like, anybody? You've worked for people. You've obviously took money from someone. That's how you have a job. You've taken money from your fans and your people that watch you. Just say foreign, be a little bit more precise, perhaps. I don't know. Say it again. We also, what do you got here? Ban Photoshop said, hey, Tyler, can I borrow $50? I don't have $50. By the time that gets to me, it's not going to be 50. But if you do have 50, you can send it to me. And Ban Photoshop, what am I drinking? Athletic Brewing, just an IPA, non-alcoholic, Run Wild IPA. Let me tell you about yesterday. It was St. Patty's Day, right? So my wife's like, oh, brother-in-law's coming over, her mother-in-law. We're gonna have corned beef and hash or whatever she made, and she just likes to do that kind of stuff. So like, okay, fine. But I'm like, oh, I'm doing this Tower Gang thing. So I did the Tower Gang thing, and I started drinking. Yesterday was Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. So I had a few. I had three big cans actually, and it was I was fine. I stayed home, but I didn't sleep so well. I did a ride today. I'm still doing the exercise stuff. But you gotta take it back. I'm trying to, what's my point here? I'm trying to go this route during the week. All right. A little bit more. So, let's take a look here. I want to watch this. This is, one thing about Joe Kent. We're going to do probably some more stuff on Joe Kent. We'll do this before we take off here. This is Jake Tapper. This is where, words matter. And, what Tucker said to these people, was he taking money, little specific, words and actions matter. This is called actus reus and mens rea. Actus reus is your actions. Mens rea is your mental, did you have the mental intent to do something? That's really what those things are. This is weird when people say this kind of stuff. Let's just listen here.
Joe Kent resigned today. He says Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. He blamed the war and also the war in Iraq and also the U.S. war against ISIS in Syria. He blamed all of it on pressure from Israel.
Okay, pressure from Israel. It's a country. There are atheists. Remember this. There are atheists that live there. There are Arabs, because they want to brag, the Zionists in their arguments, that we've had Arabs on the Supreme Court. You have Mike Huckabee talked about it as well. And we've gone through the right of return and how they're all kind of bullshit. But let's take their arguments at face value. Their arguments at face value are, we're not just a Jewish country. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There's other people that live here, and we don't have any kind of loyalty. It's anti-Semitic to say there's any kind of loyalty of Jews to Israel, although, technically it is only a Jewish nation, but it's not, because, we have atheists that live here so they're Jews, but they're atheist Jews. But then we have Arabs, we have Christians that live here too, and they have all the same rights. Well, they don't, but they have all the same rights as far as me telling you that they do. So with that in mind, Israel itself can't be, the word should not be synonymous with Jews. Okay? Let's just go there.
The pro-Israel lobby. Kent's letter also, first of all, before he was confirmed as director of the NCTC, he faced Senate opposition because of ties to white supremacists and anti-Semites. His letter...
Did he, though? I mean, this is what... Just because you say that someone is an anti-Semite and ties to white supremacy, just because you say, the SPLC, they'll make those comments about all kinds of people. Clinton Russell, Dave Smith, I know they've made those comments. Is that true? Just because you say, he had to. Now, if you remember here as well, Graham Allen, he's this just complete hack shill. I think he's still, I don't know if he does still, but at one point he was doing stuff for the Blaze. He tries to be one of these, Chad type of people, but he's just a piece of shit. And he's up there, he's like, prediction, Joe Kent's going to immediately go on, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and like Megyn Kelly. And it's like, you mean like some of the 3 biggest podcast platforms in the world right now? Sure he will. But here's what else you need to remember. Tucker Carlson recently had on Nick Fuentes, which he took a lot of shit for. But what was one of the problems that they had before they went on Tucker? And it kind of was the whole thing that stirred it up. It was Joe Kent. Joe Kent wouldn't suck the tit of Nick Fuentes, and Nick got all pissed off about it. So I've talked about this over and over when we did him. And this is my problem with Nick. He gets real girly on his reactions. It's like, okay, you're putting out ideas that someone doesn't like you personally. You take it super personal. It's like, okay, whatever. Just move on. Who cares? No, not Nick. My point is, Tucker was defending Joe and was defending him in multiple ways, and that's what their thing is. If he was defending Joe against Nick, now Graham Allen's upset that Joe's going to, like, in a sense, repay this and go on his show. Obviously a good friend of the two, it doesn't make sense. Plus, you just went, their riff, Tucker's and Nick's, was really about Joe. Okay, let's keep going here.
Blames Israel and absolves Trump. Blames Israel for the war in Iran, blames Israel for the war in Iraq, blames Israel and its supporters for ISIS, for the war on ISIS in Syria. And I think there are a lot of people today wondering, how did somebody like this get a position like this in government, given his anti-Semitic views.
How are those anti-Semitic? This is the problem. So you expect it from Jake Tapper, right? The left. This is what they've done. How, you know, look, you're not voting for the Save America Act, or you are voting for it, right? Which is ID. You're obviously just a racist. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Everybody could get it. Well, what you don't understand is you're a racist. That's what you're not understanding. It's like, well, what am I saying that's racist? I think of blacks and white. Whoa, easy with calling people names. It's like, no, but I think African Americans, whites, everybody. Oh, whites, interesting. No, I think everybody has equal access to get driver's license and birth certificates and everything. Yeah, because you're a racist. Like, I don't get it. That's what he's doing here too. What did he say that was anti-Semitic? He said Israel. Now we've done the baseline, which is you want to push and probe and make sure everybody understands that Israel is just as open and for everybody, Arabs, as it is Jews. But if you make comments about it, it's because of the Jews. It's so ridiculous.
A legitimate question. I'm personally glad he's gone. NCTC is a very important operation that connects the dots to protect the American people, particularly right now in a high state of terror alert. This anti-Semitism that we've traditionally seen on the left, we're now seeing it a little bit on the right side here. He's not the type of individual I personally would want to appoint to that position, given his anti-Israel views and his quite frankly, president views now.
No, that is a fascinating comment, his anti-Israel views. What if you said, I don't think this guy should be coming on here because of his Russian views? And you'll be like, okay, well, what are his American views? No, you don't understand. He's against Russia. Maybe he doesn't like Cuba. He doesn't like Mexico. He doesn't like the Vatican. If we had the Vatican going, now there'll be a different story, perhaps. Anyway, this is all just as ridiculous as you can get. And remember, it's not. Don't worry about people, because people like me are out there at least pushing against this. And I've been warning you. And I'm. Make sure this thing is working here. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. OBS is new, changes, and it makes me concerned that I'm not going out here just right. But with all this said and done, just rest assured, you don't have to be worried, okay? People, myself as an example, we're taking the arrows for you. We're knocking it down. You have to, if someone calls you anti-Semitic, the first thing I would do is just define it for me. What does that mean? It's like racist. It's like anything else. It doesn't matter anymore. Define it. And then tell me how I'm being wrong, and then tell me how how it cuts against pro-American stuff. Luke says also, I already read that part. Hey Tyler, can I borrow $50? Good ban Photoshop. I already read that part. So I guess we have nothing left there. All right, everybody, thanks for coming in again tonight. Should we end it with a little bit of Afroman? We'll go Ice Ice Baby. There you go. All right, see you either tomorrow or Friday. Go to TaliYonki.substack.com for all your needs. You'll find out ahead of time what we're doing. See ya.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any knowledge of the real world,
none of us are screaming, let's kill Tyler.
Tyler says my
Jewish princess.
You low-key, you're one of the funniest dudes in the Liberty world that I know.
More or less, eat shit and die.
He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Do you see what he just did to Tyler?
I feel like you don't get the appreciation for your humorous wit.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?